Hey, welcome to the sound of the start of the weekend. That was a bit shrill. It's the NTT20 betting show, and we're going to be making betting picks ahead of a weekend, which comprises of the Sky Bet Championship and also the FA Cup first round proper, which we're big fans of. We'll be making betting picks. If you're thinking of placing a bet this weekend or anytime, please make sure you're gamble aware. Head to gambleaware.org to brush up on the risks that come with gambling. This show very strictly for over 18s only. Good to be back in this seat. Last week filled virtually by the legend that is Mark O'Hare. God, he's such a good operator, isn't he? At this level, there's very few better.
Stats like there is no tomorrow.
Mesmeric, isn't it? I do genuinely get into like a mesmerized state when I'm hearing him rattle off stats when he's going through his reasoning for his picks. Now, he did experience what I would consider to be something of a betting show rite of passage, where his beautifully reasoned nap, over 2.5 goals and BTTS in Swindon Colchester was a 0-0 draw.
The curse is real. The only one in the EFL.
I reckon if anyone ever guests on this show, and there'll be others in the future that aren't just Goffey or Mark O'Hare, I reckon everyone will start with a nap like that. I think I think that is rite of passage stuff. He made up for it somewhat with Millwall, draw no bet. His next best was a winner at 10-11. Good bet that. He successfully swerved Barnet at Barrow, which was a very good pick, and that I really enjoyed the reasoning for that about away teams in League Two going off odds on. And his goal scorer, Charles Vernam, 7-2. I'd say an unlucky loser given he had 7 shots in the game, but was a little wayward. You were hosting, which was interesting to listen to. Stephen commented on Spotify saying you hosting felt like sleeping on the wrong side of bed.
But he didn't mind it.
Well, sometimes it's nice to mix it up.
Yeah.
I thought that was very nice phrasing. You said to me this week that it's actually harder than it looks, thinking about your bets and also presenting. So
what's funny is that I've presented a lot of betting content in other guises.
Yeah.
And I've been the
fake moustache, wear a trilby in one of them. No, sorry, guises, not disguises.
And I've been the Robin to your Batman on this show for nearly 10 years now. And so it's funny not often have I've done it a few times. But last week was the first time in the studio. It felt like it's just quite hectic.
Professional.
And also just so many picks. I had more picks than normal.
Not many people relegate themselves to the role of Robin. I think that's a really interesting insight into your mindset and how you see yourself on this show. And actually reflects pretty well my mindset and how I see myself on this show. Max, man. Your picks. Well, Norwich didn't get the win that they were due. Didn't beat Swansea, thanks mainly to the Vipers and the Potniks, right peg. Saints didn't win either. Adam Armstrong missing 2 1-on-1s at 1-0 up at Blackburn, I'm sure you noted with a grimace. Scott Banks did score at 11-2. That was a great pick. Lancashire scored at 11-4. That was a great pick. Mbick, not a good pick. Didn't score 2 or more. And Ethan Archer didn't score for Cheltenham either.
That's very outcome-driven analysis, I would say.
No, it just rhymed.
Okay.
Just a rhyme. Don't overthink it. Just a rhyme.
The Imbiro.
I'd said good pick, Banks, good pick. Lancashire said Mbick, bad pick. It just rolled off the tongue.
Yeah.
Your Eggman, not as easy as it looks, the Eggman. 2 out of 5. And the BTTS combo bet with Mark was a classic 3 out of 6. We've got a really fun combo bet coming today. Listeners with good memories, better memories than mine, may remember a 66-1 winner last season in the equivalent show, the FA Cup first round proper. We go goalsy. We back that up with numbers and hopefully with sharp accuracy. So we've got a very similar bet this season, and hopefully we can recreate the joys of last season. George, what's your best bet this weekend? What's your nap?
It's a 5-1 nap.
Love it.
I wonder if it's the biggest price nap we've had. Anyway, it's Sheffield Wednesday, draw no bet at West Bromwich Albion at 5-1.
Draw no bet at 5-1.
Yeah.
Wow.
Money back.
Don't see that very often in the English Football League.
I'm pretty staggered about how this is priced. And I think it's very important because I know that people listen to this will often mistake picks for being, I think this team is going to win. And it's got to be a price thing. And of course, Baggies are favourites for this game and they should be. But there is way, way too big a price discrepancy. I cannot imagine this can go off the price that it is at the moment because it's, to put it into context, Hemel Hempstead go to Wigan in the FA Cup first round this weekend and are currently they're a tiny bit bigger, but basically the same price as Sheffield Wednesday are going to West Bromwich Albion in the league. there is obviously a perception, and Wednesday are bottom of the Championship. There's a perception of them as being, way worse than the rest. And I'm not entirely sure that's true. And I'm definitely not sure that that's true away from home. They, their home form this season has been really poor. And I think that's the key reason why they're as low as they are. But Wednesday have only been beaten on the road twice all season so far. And they ended both games with 10 men on the pitch. On opening day against Leicester, where they were really impressive until they had a man sent off in Barry Bannon, their most important player, and they lost the game 2-1. And at Charlton last time out, where they, again, were really, really impressive. They went 2-0 down, but they fought their way back into the game really well. Obviously, Horvath getting sent off late had no material impact to the game whatsoever, but they were strong in the second half. But otherwise, Wednesday this season away from home, and the important thing to point out here is that their away support has been magnificent all season, because of course there was the boycott at Hillsborough in order to not fund the previous owners, to not line his pockets. But away from home, that's where they've been travelling in numbers and making their support heard and their protests known. And it's not a massive surprise they've been better away from home. But you look at their other performances and results. They beat Portsmouth at Fratton Park 2-0. They went to Birmingham and they very nearly beat them 2-1, but Damari Gray scored in the 99th minute to score a very late equaliser in that game. They have also been to, there's one other away game, they went to Wrexham and drew 2-2, and also in the cup, they went away from home to Bolton and they drew the game 3-3. So you can see that away from home, they've only been beaten twice and they are competitive in basically all of their games. And the underlying numbers are okay. Like their XG ratio away from home in the away from home XG table is, I think, 14th, 15th. So for them to be priced up in this way, and to follow that up on NTT20.com earlier this week, we released Not the Top Table, which is our brand new weekly post that is going to slice and dice the XG tables in each league. So we'll be publishing not only the season to date XG tables with XG against, expected goal difference, XG total, and crucially XG ratio, but we'll be doing it in 5-game chunks and we'll be doing it in 10-game chunks. And it's an unbelievably useful resource for betting purposes, or purely just to kind of see how teams are performing over a shorter period of time. Because
form.
Exactly.
Form.
How are they playing now?
There's so much good stuff out there, and we constantly quote numbers from Opta Analyst, from FOTMob, but that stuff's all just collated over time into totals, season-long totals. And I think basically once you get to this stage of the season, 12, 13, 14 games in, it's great to know the season totals, but it's really great to slice them and dice them into last 5, last 10. And last 5 you've got to take with a bit of pinch of salt. That's where one game, maybe where you've played with 10 men for a bit, could be massively skewing the overall numbers. Or
fixture difficulty as well is another big one.
Fixture difficulty. So it's definitely not the case that we're encouraging people to take it all as gospel, as with any stat, any number. But we really do think we're creating something for EFL fans that doesn't really exist, and certainly from a punting perspective, we think has to add some value to an EFL punter.
Definitely. So yeah, go and check them out, ntt20.com. You'll find Not the Top Table there, which will, in all 3 leagues, give you those tables, 3 tables per league. In the Championship, as you can see on Not the Top Table, if you're looking at the last 5 games, West Brom's underlying numbers are horrendous, basically. An XG ratio of 33.9%. It is the 3rd lowest in the Championship, just above Sheffield Wednesday. Their XG4 of the last 5 games is 0.74, and that's kind of reflected over the whole season. There's a negative trend, but they've had a negative XG ratio all in the whole season table, and even last 10 games is pretty poor in the bottom third of the table. So not playing particularly well. When you consider their recent performances, it kind of plays out. They really struggled to threaten Ipswich much in that game. They went to Millwall and were well beaten. There was a 1-0 win over Norwich, but we know that Norwich's home form is really, really poor. There was the win against Preston, which is obviously the best result in performance. But even then, Preston were able to create a fair amount in that game. It's just a worrying trend, I think. And we've seen West Brom fans start to get a little bit frustrated with Ryan Mason's management, and certainly his in-game management and the way that he uses his substitutions as well. So the final point is that, of course, this is the first away game since Wednesday were put into administration. And as Oxford United found out on Saturday, where Wednesday put in an unbelievable second half performance and definitely on the balance of play shouldn't have lost that game, I think we're going to see a different beast here. Yes, they've had the points deduction. Yes, there might be more points deductions to come. But right now, this is a club who are celebrating rather than feeling down on their luck. They're celebrating, hopefully, a new era. And, they're buoyant despite the points deduction. And we, with, West Brom fans certainly going to this game expected them to be able to beat them. In terms of the atmosphere itself, it could get quite edgy quite quickly if things don't go their way. I think this is just a totally mad price. I cannot work out how there can be such a big discrepancy given their recent performances and the 5-1 draw no bet. Like, honestly, I think Wednesday should be shorter than 5-1 to win the game, and you're getting 5-1 draw no bet.
My nap's Charlton 21-20 with Sky Bet to beat Swansea at the Valley this weekend. It's funny to think pre-season, if I'd have told you that come the end of October, Charlton would be just odds against to beat Swansea, you'd really wonder what had happened to both sides to start the season. And what we have are Charlton in 6th spot. I'm not very keen on league positions at this stage of the season, particularly in that sort of middle chunk of the championship. So I'm not going to go big on the fact that they're in the playoff places. I don't think that is particularly weighty. But I do certainly think that this is basically best case scenario Charlton from pre-season. And those who had the vision won't be feeling that surprised that it's a Charlton side who are incredibly difficult to play against, who have by no means scraped the points that they've won, and in many cases have dropped points in games where the opposition would have felt fairly fortunate to have left with them. They are excellent at home. This season, their home form, 3 wins, 1 draw and 1 defeat is good, if not incredible. But the defeat to Leicester, they were the better side and lost to a Fatawu Worldy out of nothing. The draw against Millwall, they were ahead, went down to 10 men, misjudgment from Kane Ramsey and kind of shafted his team a little bit there. Millwall's scoring a late equaliser. The 3 wins, all of them fair results. So at home, nothing to question really so far this season when it comes to Charlton. They are so sure of themselves. They know exactly how to play, how to get at teams, and certainly how to keep the opposition at bay. Across 2 seasons now at home, it's an 18 win, 7 draw, 3 defeats record. That's a 64% win ratio across 28 home games at the Valley. But if you remember last season, it was the start of December where they really took on this kind of final form, if you like, that saw them charge their way to the playoffs, win the playoffs, and start this season so well in the top half, in 6th spot, in fact, a quarter way through the season. So since the start of December, 15 home wins in the league, 4 draws and 1 defeat, a 75% win rate. That's not including the playoff semi-final, which they won as well. So very impressive home numbers, great tactics. Everyone knows their role. Nathan Jones has them singing to his tune. And his tune, well, it's not one that Swans fans like very much. Nathan Jones, a big Cardiff boy, and this game has a tiny bit of extra Welsh spice to it because of that. Charlton haven't conceded a goal in the first half in 11 of their 12 league games this season. That is, to me, the best reflection of how well drilled they are and how well coached they are. To have conceded 1 goal, or only in 1 first half of their 12 league games this season, so impressive. But it's not just about them. I'm so down on Swansea at the moment. Going forward, them and Derby, the worst teams in the league. Swans have had the 2nd fewest shots this season with the worst XG per shot. So not taking many shots. The one they do take, not of a good quality. No goals from set pieces this season and the lowest XG created from them. Don't do a lot from high turnovers or disrupting the opposition with any kind of press or any kind of strong transition play. Defensively, I thought they were great because the first 4 games, they really were very, very, very good. And then everything changed. They've got the 8th worst XG against so far this season, and in their last 8 games, they've only conceded less than 1 expected goal in 1 of their games, and they've only kept 1 clean sheet. And ironically, that was against Southampton, who generated over 3 expected goals in that game. So, been poor up front all season. Vipotnik very much papering over massive cracks, fissures, if you like, and defensively not that good either. And to finish it off, they spent Wednesday night chasing around Man City. 75% possession for City. Swans had 2 shots early on and no more after that. It was just one of those defence v attack kind of games in the end, and I don't think that's a great situation to head to Charlton, who've had the week off and are famously quite intense and ask a lot of questions of you constantly, particularly aerially and with direct play. So Charlton, it is a skinny price, there's no doubt about it, but at 21-20, I've still managed to talk myself very easily into thinking that is still good value. 21-20 with Sky Bet. Charlton to beat Swansea. Next up,
Hull to beat Norwich. at 23 to 10, kind of flip-flopping on Norwich every week, backing them to lose, backing them to win, backing them to lose again. It's because I think at home and away they're basically a different team, and at home they are so poor. They've lost 5 out of 5 home games this season. The place is pretty toxic. Norwich fans have a pick of things to complain about at the moment. They're not happy with the manager. They're not happy with the director of football, Ben Napper. They're not happy with the owner. They're not happy with the way they're being treated. They're not happy with decisions being made about the ground. It is a club that is in crisis, really. And the owner has come over to kind of address the fans' concerns, but not do what the fans want. You know, he's basically sticking to the process. At least that's the line he's using at the moment. Hull, I think, are a bit of a nightmare opponent for them. Now, caveat this, because I know there'll be a lot of Hull fans probably in the comments saying we basically don't have a team, all our players are injured, and I completely get that. Like, Hull's injury issues are really quite bad coming into this. McBurney is the latest to be injured. Crook's injured as well, I think. Liam Miller, after coming back and scoring great goals, now back on the sideline. Balumi, who came back for a bit, he's back on the sidelines. So there are obvious issues there. John Lundstrom, another one who started the season so well, he's not playing at the moment. But there's still enough. Like, it's not particularly, in terms of depth, they're okay. Gelhardt is still a brilliant attacking player for the level. I'm going to talk about him again in a second. They still have Hughes and Egan and Ajayi, who I know haven't been the best defensively, but are still probably their first choice defenders. Carl Joseph's another one who I know doesn't score many goals, but he leads a line with lots of energy and is quite important to their attacking play. And I think for Norwich, whose defensive shape and their defensive unit have been so poor, like Darling and Medic have struggled to keep oppositions quiet throughout the season. To have a team like Hull, who under Jakurovic, regardless of the personnel they've got, we know are going to be relentlessly attacking, I think is a bit of a shocker for them. I'm sure Norwich will cause Hull problems. They'll probably cause them more issues than we've seen them cause most teams who've come to Carrow Road this season. Although, there was that 3-2 game against Wrexham. But in a game that I think will go very end-to-end, with the Norwich side who've basically forgotten how to win, against a Hull team and a fan base who certainly think they've got a chance of doing something this season. I think the price discrepancy, like if you tell a Norwich fan they're 11 to 10 to win this game, they think you're absolutely mad. Now, there's obviously a lot of inherent bias that goes in that. But I think Norwich are very short. And I'm happy to take a chance on Hull at 23 to 10 to win it.
Okay.
And sorry, my goal scorers in the same game. So I'll just cover it off now. Gelhardt, 7-2 to score anytime. He's Hull's biggest goal threat for a team that score loads of goals. He scored 5 already this season from 3.5 XG in 29 shots. Even though he plays off the right-hand side, the shot locations do not suggest that he does at all. They're all very, very central and in that kind of right inside channel, inside the box. Good finisher, good goal scorer, direct attacker, someone who I think is going to relish come up against the defensive unit that I just mentioned.
George has jumped into goal scorer corner before it's even opened.
Because it's just there,
Well, no, it's not just that. Can you treat it with a bit more respect, actually? Something that I take really seriously.
Apologies.
Actually. Goal scorer corner.
Cool.
Good. Respect me and respect it. My goal scorer corner this week, 2.5 points spread across 3 championship bets.
Who's your MB?
I don't have one.
Okay, you
I
never
haven't had one all season.
Cool.
Good to know you are keeping up to date with things.
I'm muscled in front of you for goal scorer corner.
Exactly.
That's what upset me. Okay, good.
That's what upset me.
Yeah.
Nat Phillips. Nat Phillips plays for West Brom. Big centre-back against Sheffield Wednesday. This is slightly anti-George's Nap, but I can't ignore it. Sheffield Wednesday from set pieces this season, just really, really, really poor. And that's contributed to a lot of their defeats, particularly game against Coventry springs to mind, where it felt like every time Coventry had a set piece, there was a big chance created from it. They've conceded 10 goals in their 12 games from set pieces, so almost a goal down on average just from goals from set pieces. They've conceded the most set piece shots. They've conceded the most set piece XG by miles. Nat Phillips, big sexy centre-back. He's the obvious target for West Brom. He's the obvious goal threat. You compare him to Mepham, George Campbell. They are both juicier prices than this, and I'm always tempted to go for the longer prices just because it's not like teams just have one target, and sometimes the secondary or the tertiary set piece target can benefit from being that. But I think Big Nat is the one. 9-1, I think, is a fair price with Sky Bet. I'm putting 0.75 points on that. And then 2 strikers away at some of these so-called big dog parachute payment teams that have had a lot of holes in their parachutes this season. Yuki Ohashi of Blackburn Rovers, 4-1, anytime with Sky Bet, 1 point play. Only Haji Wright, Brandon Thomas-Asante, and Adam Armstrong have a higher XG per 90 than Ohashi. He is a bit of a shot magnet, a bit of a big chance magnet, and his finishing hasn't been great this season. A bit like Adam Armstrong, he is underperforming his XG. But we've seen enough from Ohashi in a season and a bit to know that he is someone that doesn't seem to lose his confidence when he does miss chances. He just keeps going and going, and he has shown some good finishing as well as some poor finishing. Blackburn really good in transition. When they win the ball in midfield and get it into the front four quickly, I think that's when they're at their best. I think they should have that opportunity at Leicester, who have the 5th worst XG against numbers in the division per NTT tables on NTT20.com. They just can't really keep the door closed. And I think whatever happens in this game, Rovers should have some opportunities, as they did when beating Saints last week. Now, playing Saints this week, Preston North End, and Daniel Jebison is 7-2 to score. I'm putting 3/4 of a point on that. They can't keep the door closed either. That game against Blackburn was kind of crazy because they 1-0 up, they missed lots of chances, they created loads of chances, but they also just... They look really unconfident at the back at the moment. They've got a lot of players who on paper you'd expect to be forming part of a strong defensive unit, and they're just not. Like the back four against Rovers was Manning at left back, Ronnie Edwards at right back, Nathan Wood and the new lad Kwashi at centre back. They all looked all at sea, quite frankly. You've got Harwood Bellis unused on the bench for that game. He's been poor in individual games this season. Stevens coming off the bench. Wellington came off the bench and then got sent off, so suspended for this game. They've had half their games with Bazunu in goal, then dropped him, and have had half their games with McCarthy in goal. Neither of them doing a great job in terms of shot stopping. They just look like really meek and mild at the back, Southampton. And this is going to be a tough atmosphere at home unless they get ahead and dominate for the whole game, because the fans are pretty done with the club, those running the club, and increasingly with Will Still, certainly with this group of players. I don't think there's a lot of love for them too. So Jebison's a guy who, when he's not playing well, as has been pointed out regularly by fans of clubs that he's played for, such as Watford, he looks terrible. He is one of those strikers. When he's not playing well, he looks terrible. But when he is playing well, when he looks confident, suddenly it's quite easy to focus on some quite exciting attributes: size, speed, and in the last couple of games, some good goal-scoring positions he's got into, and 2 goals scored in his last 4, including a nice header last time out against Sheff United. So Daniel Jebison at 7-2 with 3/4 of a point. Yuki Ohashi at 4-1, 1 point. And Nat Phillips of West Brom, 9-1, 3/4 of a point. That's 2.5 total on goal scorer corner.
Aka swerves.
Yes, please.
Got 2.
Okay.
Because it's the FA Cup. So there's just, so there's loads of games that are kind of ample, and people have been having a lot of FA Cup accas.
Yeah,
so
ample FA Cup accas.
So one is Bradford, who are 4-9 away at Cheltenham, which seems very short for a team who played in midweek. Were the second best team at home. Well, I say that they had. Do
you know what I think would be very fair to say? Lincoln City, but in a very impressive performance.
Yeah, but I was going to say, because obviously Collins missed a very good chance early on, but Bradford did have a couple of opportunities that wouldn't register on the shot maps. Balls that like just evaded, open goals and things like that. So they weren't by any stretch outclassed, but not a great performance either way. Against the Cheltenham side, who under Cotterill are obviously bouncing, it feels like for Cheltenham and for Cotterill, keeping up the momentum, keeping the good feeling going is incredibly important. For Bradford, they've frankly got bigger fish to fry. Like, they have a genuine opportunity this season to get into the Championship, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if they're not overly fussed about staying in the competition. So given the way that Cheltenham are playing at the moment, given the way that they're managing to find results out of absolutely nothing, I'll be pretty reticent to back an away team at 4-9 against them. And then also think Grimsby are way too short. They're 130 on, so really, really short. At home to Ebbsfleet. Ebbsfleet are mid-table in the National League South. I'm not going to profess to know a great deal about them, apart from the fact they're managed by Josh Wright, which is quite fun. And they beat Solihull in the last round. Solihull, of course, a decent National League side. They beat them 2-0 at home. This is mainly about Grimsby, who we know have had an incredible cup run this season already, that ended on Tuesday night when beaten 5-0 by Brentford. My hunch is, and this is, again, just a hunch, but they've already had a cup run this season. I would say that if you spoke to Dave Artell, and I might be wrong, but he would probably say that the cup run, whilst it's been great for some reasons, hasn't helped their league form. If you look at their bad performances or bad results this season, they've either come immediately after their wins against Manchester United and Sheffield Wednesday, or they lost to Crewe on Saturday just before a big game on Tuesday night against Brentford. Now that they're out, I'd be quite surprised if he really fancied way more fixtures and way more games that weren't in the league, because they, again, have a massive opportunity to get into League One. And given how much would have taken out of them on Tuesday night, it wouldn't surprise me at all if they heavily rotate, especially because they've got a decent crop of young players coming through there as well who'll benefit from some minutes. So this is mainly a Grimsby thing. I'm just not sure they'll be overly motivated here. Of course, it'd be, relatively embarrassing or very embarrassing to be beaten at home by Ebbsfleet United, but in the grand scheme of things, it won't matter too much. So at 130 on, they look very, very short to me.
The true Eggman is back, and we're sitting on the wall. 32-1, the fivefold this week. It's got Charlton in it. That's my nap as explained. It's got Ipswich in it. They're even money away at QPR. I'd be lying if I said I thought that was a chunky price, but I am deep down still fairly confident that Ipswich go on a run soon. I think the month of November could be it. George and I actually have a show specific for our paid subscribers of NTT20.com, and it's called Good Month, Bad Month, and it's a monthly predictions podcast, and we're recording it straight after we record this, and it will go live for our paid subscribers of NTT20.com. And I suppose it has some relevance to betting. It's kind of around team ratings and looking at fixture lists and projections. Kind of interesting for outright stances and situations and portfolios and things of that nature. So if you want to give Good Month, Bad Month a go, do sign up to NTT20.com today. Ipswich are not my pick for Good Month, but they were on the shortlist. Sheffield United are at home to Derby. We said on Monday that it's beginning to look a lot like Eustace.
Yeah.
Everywhere they go.
Only at home, really.
Wow. I'd say Sheffield United beginning to look a lot more like Chris Wilder's Sheffield United. So that cancels out Derby starting to look a lot like Eustace. 3 wins, 3 losses in Sheffield United's last 6. Means it hasn't been like smooth sailing. They're not absolutely flying. But I would say overall performance trends are positive. I think they are getting some swagger back, some mojo back. Still some work to do, yes. Defensively and in game management and things of that nature. Derby have got their back-to-back home wins by 1-0. But overall, I still think this is one that Sheff United should win. The price reflects that. It's 3-4, I think. Fleetwood Barnet, FA Cup game. I just think this is good value, Fleetwood at 17-10. I got a lot of time for Barnet. I do think they've been one of the more impressive teams in League Two recently. I actually think their points tally probably doesn't reflect how well I think they're playing, but Fleetwood have had good home form this season. What I've noticed is that they've been particularly good in the last month as the conditions have started to change at using conditions, the Fleetwood wind, the famous Fleetwood wind. In their favour. And I think that could make it tough for Barnet travelling up. Fleetwood seem to be able to perform pretty well at home, and I do think 17-10 is good value. And then Reading against Carlisle in the FA Cup. Picking Reading, again, short price, 1.7. It's Liam Richardson's first match as their manager. I need to work this out for the Monday pod probably, but I'm still not 100% sure on my view of this appointment. With Liam Richardson, I kind of have competing issues with competing aspects of it, right? So one of them is I've been getting quite frustrated by Reading fans on social media quoting his win percentage at Rotherham in a fairly short spell where he took over a very bad Rotherham team in the Championship and couldn't magically turn them into a good team in the Championship. And they were on their way to getting relegated, and Richardson didn't do anything to improve that. I basically ignore that in how I think Liam Richardson will do managing Reading. I pretty much ignore that because I don't think it's particularly relevant. I also slightly wince at the idea that the Reading ownership keep mentioning that this is a proven promotion winner at this level because he won 1 promotion with Wigan. I think one of the biggest red flags in EFL managerial appointments is the idea that having won a promotion at some point 5 years ago with a completely different team in completely different scenarios in a completely different league where the football being played is completely different to how it's played now is the most important thing or should be a priority over other ways of choosing your manager. Now, Richardson is a great guy by all accounts, clearly has had some success as a football manager, and I think there is a good chance that he makes Reading better. That's partly because I don't think they were very good under Noel Hunt. So I think he probably improves them. I don't know how excited I am overall by it, but with players looking to impress him this weekend, good opportunity at home to a team 2 leagues below. Hard for me to imagine, and this is where we're just guessing if I'm honest, but it's hard for me to imagine the FA Cup being a huge priority for a Carlisle side just trying to get back into the EFL as quickly as possible. They're going fairly well in the league. I think they're third, but I think Reading should do the business 1.7. So that's a 32-1 fivefold. Charlton, Ipswich and Sheffield United in the Championship. Fleetwood and Reading in the FA Cup. See how we go. I think it's joint bet time.
It is.
I think it's joint bet time. Now, some stats. In the last 3 years, FA Cup first round proppers, 120 games there have been across this sample size. 16 of them have gone over 5.5 goals. And 27 of them, of the 120, have gone over 4.5 goals. It happens regularly, and we want to find the ones. They're going to go goalsy. Last season, George picked Exeter Barnet, and I picked Newport against Peterborough. And Exeter beat Barnet 5-3, and Peterborough beat Newport 4-2. And we had a 66-1 winner and a 16-1 winner, and it felt incredible. And we are just chasing that high once again. So, George, this year, the over 4.5 double is 16-1. The over 5.5 double is 62-1. Pretty similar vibes. What are you going for?
Boreham Wood versus Crawley Town.
Nice.
Now, Crawley are well known to listeners of this podcast, surely, as being goalsy under Scott Lindsay. They were when they got promoted. They were last season in League One. It's been, I guess, a little bit more patchy this season, but they come here fresh off after putting 4 past Bristol Rovers last time out. And we've seen a couple of crazy games. They were beaten 4-0 as well at Notts County. There were 4 goals in the game against Cambridge. I know we need 5 or more. We have seen in a cup competition in the EFL Trophy, they beat Aston Villa under 21s 4-2. But with Lindsay, you know that there is going to be an open, they're going to attack in a certain way. They're not the best defensively. It'll be a relatively open game. Now with Boreham Wood, I'm by no means in any way an expert on National League football or non-league football. Like I probably know less than the layman, I would say.
Really?
Maybe not the layman. maybe less than the nerds that listen to this podcast. Us. If you love EFL, you love League Two, you probably have a better understanding of National League than me. By the way, I'm very much including myself as a nerd. So please don't get offended about being called a nerd.
Nerd.
Yeah, you're a nerd too.
What?
It's I had this idea that under Luke Garrard they were like this really solid side who were very solid defensively, not particularly expansive football. But their success and their overachievement had come off the back of that kind of style. So I was dumbfounded when I looked at the National League table this morning and I saw that this season they are doing really well. They are 4th in the National League, serious chance of getting promoted into the EFL. In their 16 games, they've conceded 17 goals and scored 30. So 47 goals in their 16 games so far. And I looked through the actual their games themselves. They have covered the over 6.5, I think, twice. Over 5.5 twice. They drew 3-3 away from home against Carlisle back in August. They beat Sutton 4-3 in early September. And even at the end of last season in the National League South playoffs, in which they were eventually victorious, they beat Dorking 4-3. So things have changed at Boreham Wood quite clearly. They are now a pretty a side where you can follow for goals. Even recently, we had a 2-2 draw away from home against York. They seem to be in the same way that Barnet were this time last year, a team that you can go to for goals. So a goalsy National League side, a goalsy EFL side. It's what I looked for last year in Exeter Barnet. We got a 5-3. It's what I think we've got here in Boreham Wood against Crawley.
Yeah, I'm adding Barnsley against York City. And I think this is really interesting because I think York are going to go for this, even as the National League team, playing a team 2 leagues above, away from home. It's a free hit for them, and they're a team, what I know about them, and look, the layman probably knows more about the National League than I do, right? The Ackerswerveman certainly does.
What about the nerds?
The nerds know way more about them than me, but what I know about York is that they are pretty bullish to the point of arrogance. in some National League circles, I think it's fair to say. They somewhat back it up by being a pretty good team. They weren't quite good enough last season. They may or may not be good enough this season to join the EFL, rejoin the EFL. But in the National League this season, 4 wins and 4 draws away from home, no defeats. Their away games have seen 3.07 goals per game, which is very goalsy. They have scored 16 goals in their last 7 league games, over 2 goals a game on average in their last 7 in the league. They've got attackers like Ollie Pearce, Alex Newby, who are in good form this season, 16 goals in 15 league games between them. And they go to a Barnsley side who are absolutely get-atable. And we know that. They have averaged 2.92 goals per game in the league this season. Goalsy. They've had 2 3-2s and a 3-1 already in just 6 home league games. Goalsy. They really struggle to keep clean sheets. It is just 1 so far this season in 12 league games. I think they are get-atable. But they've also got David Keillor-Dunn, David McGoldrick, Reyes Cleary. He can score from anywhere. Caelan Vickers. Adam Phillips should be available, having missed last week through injury. I'm hoping for like a 4-2 Barnsley, if I'm honest. A 4-2 Barnsley. Against York, we are combining those 2 selections. So, Boreham Wood Crawley, over 4.5 goals. Barnsley York, over 4.5 goals, is about a 16-1 double. I think it's 16.88 the decimal with Sky Bet. And the over 5.5 goals double in the same games is 62-1. Surely we can't recreate last year's glory. Surely. Does lightning ever strike twice?
Yeah. Especially like in different years.
Exciting. Yeah, that's perked me right up. Today's betting show. Hopefully you've enjoyed it as well. George is going to recap his selections.
Yeah, my nap, Sheffield Wednesday to draw no bet at 5-1 away at West Bromwich Albion. Hull 23-10 at Norwich. My next best, Joe Gelhardt of Hull to score any time at 7-2. My goal scorer, I'm swerving Bradford away at Cheltenham and Grimsby at home to Ebbsfleet. And yeah, my goals pick, Bournemouth against Crawley Town.
My nap's Charlton, 21-20, home to Swansea in the Championship. 3 Championship goal scorers as well. Nat Phillips of West Brom at 9-1 anytime. 3/4 of a point in the staking plan. 1 point on Yuki Ohashi of Blackburn. 4-1 against Leicester. 3/4 of a point on Daniel Jebison of PNE. They're at Southampton. That's at 7-2. The Eggman, my 5-fold ACCA, has Charlton, Ipswich and Sheffield United in the Championship, with Fleetwood and Reading home teams in the FA Cup first round. That's 32-1. The joint bet is 1 over 4.5 goals pick and 1 over 5.5 goals pick. The over 4.5 goals picks at 16-1 and the over 5.5 goals double 62-1. That's a bit of fun. We'll be back on Monday recapping the Championship weekend and all the best bits from the FA Cup as well. Do head to ntt20.com and just see what we mean when we talk about XG form tables, sortable by different columns. I think lots of value there for anyone that's interested in, well, betting, fantasy EFL, just predictions, analysis, looking smart in front of your mates. And that's
something you've always been very good at.
That's what I've been winging it for years, mainly because I've had access to XG tables, and you can too on ntt20.com. Thanks to Sky Bet for sponsoring this podcast, and to you for listening to it, and to the Reverters for playing us out. Cheers. Go well.